So, I scratched my nose. It's a great way to start a show. Welcome to, I believe, episode 3 of the Insomniac podcast now, because we are renaming it because Insomniac Sports on Hammer Sports was quite redundant. And we do like a bit of redundancy, but that was just a little bit too much redundancy.
Yeah, sports just didn't seem to work.
Sports isn't alliterative. Today, we got a great show. They say that imitation, well, what was it? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but
Sure,
they also
yeah.
say that good artists borrow and great artists steal outright. So we're going to outright steal some great headlines and talk about it straight from the headlines of the NFL Network and CBS and all those lovely folks out there. Because we were going through a couple of these before the show, and we noticed just a few that we wanted to talk about, and there was too many to just pick one. So we figured, why not jump around? I know you had a few that you saw that caught your eye. What was that first one? What was the first one you want to talk about?
Well, the first one, they've got an article written by Adam Shine around a little bit in the, whatever. And he's got sleeper candidates, dark horse candidates for the MVP, the upcoming 2023 season. And I haven't even looked at his list. I just looked at the front part of it, and I was curious what they might think. So, yeah, that's the one that jumped out to me. You want to go? You want to go right into that, or you want? We're going to talk
Let's
about.
go right into that.
Okay.
Let's go right into that. Dark horses for MVP. You know, this is an interesting question because there's always someone who shows up, and this is you always have your Patrick Mahomes and your Josh Allens, but there's always a name that you didn't have on your radar necessarily before that pops and really goes off. There's but there's usually signs. Like Jalen Hurts didn't win MVP. I'm drawing a blank.
No, but he was in the conversation.
But he was in the conversation for sure.
Yeah.
And you could see it building. I think if I had to pick a dark horse candidate for MVP right now, thinking through the, this is going dark. This is just off the top of my head, but I think a dark, deep dark, scary dark, monsters under your bed candidate is Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh, well, I mean, boy, he was playing great until he got really killed.
Twice.
Yeah. I like that. I don't know if it's on this list, but that's not going to be on very many people. That's not the first thing you think. But my goodness, he's got some weapons, and they were really humming for a while there. That could be interesting. And if they ended up with someone like Dalvin Cook, which we have talked about as a possibility, others have said, that's just another nice weapon for him. I could see that. It would be a surprise, but
yeah, I would be surprised.
It's like Area 51. Do I believe the government's hiding evidence of aliens? No. If I find out tomorrow that they are, I'm not surprised. So,
Yeah, I mean, number one, he has to stay healthy.
Yes.
And two, we've only really seen him in a 4-game stretch, and that 4-game stretch was good. But outside of that, he was injured all the time. But yeah, like you bring up Dalvin Cook, and I'm interested to see where Dalvin Cook goes. I talked about it a little bit. I did a video on Dalvin Cook and where I thought he might go. I think that Miami's a really good spot for him. I think that scheme wise they fit nicely, and I think adding Dalvin Cook to that squad, if you can keep Tua healthy, that's their season. It just comes down to, is Tua going to be healthy?
Yes.
And if he's not, then obviously he's not going to be MVP candidate. But obviously, that team might will their way into the playoffs like they did last season, but it's hard to know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they looked pretty scary for that 4-game stretch, and then not so much. And I know I saw something today that Dalvin Cook he said he wants to carry the ball. He's not looking to split time. He's not going to San Francisco or something like that. which they don't have the money for him anyway. But the point being, Miami's a place you could do that. Um, I agree with you. It comes down to Tua, and doesn't. I mean, it's funny we think of him as injury prone now because of last season, but he hasn't been really. So
And the thing about him is that his injuries aren't necessarily. There are a lot of freak injuries. I mean, going back to college, he had the hip injury.
oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
Which is fairly odd. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the same type of injury that ended Bo Jackson's career, but he had the hip injury. Now he has the concussions, and you wonder if it's something to do with certain people just kind of attract injuries and how they fall. But like the injuries he's having aren't necessarily they're not injury prone injuries. It's kind of the same thing with Christian McCaffrey, which people talk about him injury prone, but his injuries, most of them aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, offensive lineman fell on your leg.
Right.
Does that make you injury prone? That you're a human?
300-pounder falling on your leg is going to hurt a lot of people. No, it's true. But and we should point out though, or acknowledge, concussion's a whole different ball game. And now that he's had two like that, and everybody was asking then, is this a problem? We don't know how many more he's had. He may not know. I mean, in my day, of course, it was like how many fingers, and you'd say purple, and they'd say, okay, go back in there. They didn't really worry too much about it. And that's relatively recent that mindset has gone away, and players have that mindset. I had players all the time that we had to take their helmet away from them because otherwise they were going to be on the field after concussion. And so, that's neither here nor there. The point being, how many has he played through before, whether he knew it or not, whether it was a coach making it happen or not. I'm not making any accusations. Just saying, when you've had a couple of concussions, sometimes you can have more. And
yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing. And I don't know, we're spending an awful lot of time talking about his injury, but it is the point.
Yeah.
And I think it's why. Well, I don't know if he's on this list, for example. He might be, but if he is, you're a prophet, or something like that. But
another name.
Yeah.
I'll let you go to your name, but I just thought of another one. I'm gonna steal one from you off your list. I'm telekinesis. I'm thinking about what you're on your list. Yoink. Okay, so this isn't really. This is a dark horse. I don't know if this is a dark horse really.
There's dark horse and then there's reaches.
That Tua was a reach. It's multiple-time MVP, Super Bowl champion, really a dark horse. But Aaron Rodgers has got to be in the conversation.
That is interesting. That is interesting. I mean, well, again, we'll see what this guy says. I mean, it took him a while to get comfortable with the guys last year, but wasn't he the MVP the year before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a new team with some young weapons. They've got a nice receiver core there. I mean, and so that's not one that wouldn't be as surprising as Tua, but yeah, you're not going into this season thinking about that probably. Or at least I wasn't. I don't know.
I mean, he's getting Hackett back, and
and he was good with Hackett.
Hackett sucked as a head coach, but Hackett was offensive coordinator the last 3 years, from 2019 to 2021 for the Packers, and in those 3 years, Aaron Rodgers had a Pro Bowl, 3 Pro Bowls, 2 MVPs, and 2 All Pros, and in the 3 years before Hackett came in, he had 2 Pro Bowls, no All Pros, and no MVPs. So, one of those seasons wasn't. He got injured, but I mean, there's a conversation of Aaron Rodgers is, Hackett and him seem to have a connection. I mean, every year that Hackett was in Green Bay, they went 13-3.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And he had a 9.1 touchdown percentage one of those years. It's really good. 48 touchdowns. And he took a noticeable step back the next year. Last year when they finished with a losing record, and you wonder how much of that is age, but changing coaches has a massive effect on you as a player. And I would personally feel like maybe Hackett had more of an effect on Rodgers his pushing himself into his 40s than we gave him credit for. I mean, Rodgers let's go through his interceptions. 2, 4, 5, 4, 12. I don't think that was age necessarily, just age.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure age is starting to catch up to him, but I'm interested to see him playing with Hackett again, how much of an effect that has on him.
Yes. Well, and the other thing about Rodgers and this past season is I don't know. Rodgers he's an interesting guy. He's his own guy, right? The whole darkness retreat and something about Alawasha or I don't know something. Is that what it's called? Something like that. He'll do
Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca. There it is.
Okay.
I watched Tom Grassi. He tells me how to pronounce it.
Alawasha was some girl I knew from overseas in college. That's right. So the point being that he's a quirky guy, and
that's one way to put it.
Prideful, and he's a little prideful, and he's a little, and believe it or not, I'm not taking shots at him. I kind of wonder if he was entirely sure he wanted to be there last year or part of the season. He may have come into the season being like, Hackett moved on. It's like, I'm getting older. So that may be as much of a factor for the drop off. I'm using air quotes, of course, from last season. They did have some changes, like you said. Coaching change is a big deal. And then the other thing that goes along with all of that stuff is he tends to play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So is he going to come in? I mean, he's been throwing with his receivers. He's been loving the New York nightlife too. He's going to all the activities out there and stuff, but that's fine. And so yeah, I'm with you. I think it's not like we said, it wouldn't be as surprising as Tua. But I mean, put it this way: when's the last time a New York Jets quarterback was an MVP candidate? That'd be wild, right? So yeah, that'd be an interesting one. It's possible. Again, he might be on Shine's list. I don't know, but it's not. I mean, I wasn't thinking that way at first.
You have any names you want to throw in the hat before we take a look at who he's got?
Well, it's not that much of a long shot. I was thinking Justin Herbert. If those guys stay healthy, I mean, you think about last season.
It's the Chargers. We know that's not going to happen.
I know it's the Chargers, but they won 10 games last year with all kinds of injuries, and if lightning struck and they stayed healthy, the guys certainly got the talent to do it. It would be, and I would love to see that. Obviously, I'm a fan of Herbert. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at what they say. And he actually he mentions Herbert in the beginning. Mahomes is the odds-on favorite to win. Yeah, you gonna bring it up? Okay.
I'll bring it. Oh, I just got rid of you. Hold on, bring him back. There we go. Oh, there we go. Bring on. So, article obviously on NFL Network.
Caesar Sportsbook
has Josh Allen, Burrow, Hurts, Justin Herbert. So that's the name we mentioned.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, Lawrence, and Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
I'm not surprised to see Rodgers on there.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised to see Herbert, to be honest. But in the top 7 at least.
Right.
So his players that he has on here is number 1. He has Dak Prescott.
Before we go further, I'm going to throw one out as a dark horse. Just popped into my head. Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence.
He's in the top 7.
What? Ah! I'm not creative at all. Never mind.
You know what's funny about that is
He's on Caesar's top 7. The Caesar's
You know what made me laugh about that?
I'm so great.
Is that I just said, I'm not surprised to see Trevor Lawrence on there, but Justin Herbert, I'm a little surprised. And then you go, you know what I'm going to throw out there?
Wow.
Trevor Lawrence.
This is what happens when I get old.
Welcome to Insomniac Sports. In the name, we tell you that we don't have enough sleep.
Yeah. Hey,
what were you expecting?
I also tell everyone that I've had concussions, so just.
I think this is absolute crap. To me,
you think what?
This is absolute crap. Dak Prescott, number 1. That's absurd.
Well, the odds,
I would like to stop hearing about how the Cowboys. This is the Cowboys' year. Every year's the Cowboys' year. Cowboys fans.
Yeah.
Cowboys fans. There's a thing called the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Right.
That's the Cowboys. The Cowboys, every year is their year. It's been their year every year since they won the Super Bowl. And how many Super Bowls have they won the last 20 years? Exactly. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He's a very solid quarterback. He's top 15 at worst. He can be a top 10 quarterback, and he's played good. He's a great teammate, great locker room guy, and he seems like a great guy.
Yeah.
He's not winning the MVP. I can't wait for that to get clipped when he wins the MVP.
He needs things around him to be going well. That's the difference I see with Dak Prescott compared to some of those other guys on that list. Mm-hmm. Dak needs a running game. When was Dak at his best? When concussions, the running back was the best guy in the league when they had all the linemen and all that stuff, right? Ezekiel Elliott. That's when Dak was at his best. So he needs that. He did make some. Hey, McCarthy's going to be calling the plays. We know McCarthy can call plays. He said that they haven't changed the terminology because they don't want to make it complicated. So for the guys, it's the same offense, but it's a different offense. Their play caller going to San Diego is one of the reasons that I thought that Justin Herbert had a chance. But for the Cowboys, it may be an improvement. He wants to run the ball more. McCarthy says he wants to run the ball more. They did pick up Brandon Cooks. Not the star that he used to be for a couple of seasons. Still stretched the field. CeeDee Lamb is good. If Michael Gallup be a full season removed from his ACL tear, as it says in the article. There's stuff there. But, yeah, it's the Cowboys. And, I'll be shocked if Dak Prescott is sniffing MVP discussion. And somewhere,
me too.
A couple of my friends are like, they're getting ready to. They're going to be sending anthrax in the mail. They're, I just committed a cardinal sin. Like, oh, you're a 49er fan. I'm like, no, I really don't care anymore. I just don't think that Dak Prescott's an MVP.
Dak Prescott, his best season of his career was his rookie year when Ezekiel Elliott ran for 1,600 yards.
Yes.
And he's only had 3 seasons where he's had 10 wins. I do believe that you can win with Dak. We've seen, you can build a team around a player and win. But yeah, like you said, Dak is going on. This is going to be his 6th, 7th, 8th year in the league.
Right.
And how many times he's never been in the MVP discussion. And even in his best season, I don't think people looked at him and went, oh, yeah, he's MVP material. I mean, he's only hit 30 touchdowns twice in his career. I think it's a little bit of media bias because media tends to like the Cowboys. And I'm not saying necessarily this writer in particular, but just the media makes the Cowboys a better team than they are. They have been a middle-of-the-road team the last 20 years.
For a while,
A meh to okay team for 20 years. And they've had some good teams in that, but overall have just been meh to okay. And yet they get pushed into the forefront of like, oh yeah, this is a great team. This is a great team. They have a quarterback who has struggled with some injury. I mean, he's only had one healthy season the last 3.
Yep.
Now, I don't think he's necessarily going to struggle with injuries, but it's just something to consider. He has a new coordinator who's calling in plays.
Oh.
He has Tony Pollard at running back, which I think could be an upgrade over, not using Zeke and that whole mess that they had.
Right.
But how did the team get better is what I want to know. How did the team get better from the team from the Dak that threw 15 picks last season? And a lot of people say there's a lot of flukes in that, sure. But how did the team get that much better than what we saw last season?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, and I don't see enough to make him an MVP candidate.
Well, I mean, I agree. The basic difference of this team is Mike McCarthy's now calling plays, and they added Brandon Cooks. It's not a huge change. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. It is
and with
a
the Brandon
long
Cooks
shot.
thing, and with the Brandon Cooks thing, the receiving core was fine. They had CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and another name that's
Gallup,
escaping me.
Gallup was coming off an ACL injury.
ACL, that's true. That's true. That's fair. That is fair. Schultz was solid for them too.
Yep.
I don't think Cooks pushed him over the top to be an MVP. But we'll see. Moving on to number 2, we got plus 4,000 is Derek Carr. Derek Carr is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Derek Carr is very interesting. I'll let you go first on this one.
Oh no, go on.
All right, so I kind of like this one. I like this bold prediction. Because I like Derek Carr. I'm a Bronco fan, as the orange and blue and horse of the channel might clue you in on just a little bit. But I loved it. I like Derek Carr. He's just I don't like him when he's beating the Broncos, which he's done quite a lot recently. So not sad to see him go, but as a guy, I like him, and I like how he's played. He's played through a lot of. Vegas is not an easy place to play. Oakland was a terrible place to play. I mean, how many coaches he's gone through? Every single time he started getting chemistry with a coach, they fired the coach for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And he is a quarterback with a lot of talent. He's a lot of arm talent. Very accurate quarterback. Excuse me. And he's played good in his career, and I think. I mean, Dennis Allen was the coach that drafted Derek Carr. So seeing him reunite with the coach that drafted him, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, it's a long shot, but I seen Carr. I mean, a healthy Michael Thomas, maybe Chris Olave was fantastic in his rookie season.
Yeah, it was.
I think that. I mean, what you look for in an MVP candidate who's going to shock you. You look for talent around him. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave. Those are some talented players. And the defense should be good. And the thing is, and that's important, because one thing that goes underrated for what makes an MVP candidate is the team has to win.
Yeah.
You're not going to be an MVP candidate going 9-7, no matter how good you were. You might be a candidate, but you're not going to win.
Right.
The defense is going to win them games. And if Derek Carr can have a good season, New Orleans has a shockingly good season.
Yeah.
Quarterback gets the credit, even when they shouldn't. If he puts together a season like he has in the past, I think that we could see. I would not be extraordinarily shocked to see Derek Carr win,
No.
or at least be in the conversation.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because his odds are longer than Axe. I agree with you. Now, and you mentioned him. The article mentions Michael Thomas has to be healthy. But Olave is a nice player, likely to make a jump in his second season as well. They've got some other players there that are pretty good. You mentioned Kamara. Kamara has some potential legal troubles, but
That's true. I forgot about that.
might they also be a dark horse to maybe Kamara's legal troubles makes him go, hey, Alvin Cook, come over here. That wouldn't be terrible for either one of them. But yeah, I feel like he has as much chance as Dak, at least as much chance as Dak, to be MVP, and he's in a much easier conference. In a much easier conference.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's
I like that one.
yeah. The only beef I have with him on this is I think the odds are too high compared to the other guys.
Yeah.
They're like not giving him enough credit.
On to number 3 on this list, we
Hey.
got Tua Tagovailoa at plus 2,200 odds. Obviously, we already kind of went over him, so not gonna.
Yeah, we don't need to beat that horse dead, but still.
We're not gonna beat the dolphin dead. Actually, in this case. But yeah, I like that one. Moving on to number 4, Deshaun Watson. As I accidentally show 5. Deshaun Watson. I hate to say, I hate this.
Everyone's gonna hate it except for Cleveland.
I think a lot of Cleveland fans are gonna hate it too, but not hate it. They're just gonna feel conflicted about it.
Right.
He should be higher. I know he's coming off a year missed and then a down year, but are we forgetting how good he was in Houston?
Yeah.
And that team, that Cleveland team, has a lot of talent on, and they have a lot of playmakers. I mean, they were competitive with Jacoby Brissett. That's something against Jacoby Brissett, but
Nobody talking
they were
about Jacoby
competitive.
Brissett as an MVP. Yeah.
Nobody,
Yeah.
or even a starter. You know, I think. Deshaun Watson. I remember back when he was in his height in Houston, I said that I felt that he was one of the few players in the league that elevated his team.
Yeah.
Because you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, a guy like Aaron Rodgers, a guy like Tom Brady. Those guys are elite at taking a relatively shamble cast of characters around them and doing something with them. I mean, you look at the Texan team that made the playoffs, it wasn't overly talented. Like, there's always players on the team, but you didn't look at that team and go, oh yeah, this is a great team. You looked at him and been like, oh yeah, Deshaun Watson's carrying this team.
Yeah.
I think putting him in a place that, we've talked about this before on another show, but Baker Mayfield showed out there as well at some points.
Yeah.
And Watson's more talented than Baker by far.
No.
I think I would put Watson higher, as much as I don't want to root for him, and I'm not going to root for him. But
yeah. I mean, you're right on all those reasons. But Cleveland does have some weapons. They have a fantastic tight end who I can't remember his name now.
Oh my goodness! All I can think is Nikola Jokic, which is not even a football
It's
player.
like that.
It's David Njoku. David Njoku.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got him, who's very underrated. They've got some nice receivers. Donovan People-Jones is kind of coming into his own. They added a receiver this year too, and I can't remember who that was. And like you said, on the field, Watson did magic with nothing. And so, yeah, I mean, and honestly, the odds may be off. He may have better odds than the other guys. I don't know who else we've got on there.
This right here is sums up his time in Houston. His best statistical season with the Texans. He had completed 70% of his passes, career high. 4,800 yards, led the league.
Yeah.
33 touchdowns, 7 picks, averaged nearly 9 yards per attempt, 112 QBR through 16 games, and the Texans went 4-12.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
He's rendered
if Russell Wilson did half of that, the Broncos would have won a playoff game
right.
last season.
Yeah.
I mean, and the year before they were 10-5 and made the playoffs. So, and Deshaun Watson got better, and the team got worse. The team was not a good team. Let's look at who was on this Houston team.
Houston was kind of poorly run for a little while there.
Oh yeah, so this Houston team, their leading rusher was David Johnson.
Okay.
Duke Johnson was their backup. And receiving leader, they had 1,000-yard receiver was Brandon Cooks. Will Fuller was on this team, but he missed time. Randall Cobb, Jordan Atkins, and that's it.
Yeah.
This was not a good team. And I mean, even the year before in 2019, you look at this team. This team was solid. Better. It had DeAndre Hopkins, and he had young Will Fuller and Kenny Stills. But off of the running game, he had Carlos Hyde, who did have a 1,000-yard season, but he wasn't anything electric that year. The team was just all over a little bit better, but it wasn't. I mean, you looked at those teams as Watson and Hopkins, and now that he's in Cleveland with some really talented receivers, I think we're going to see him get back to the form that he was. I don't want him to. I want to be wrong, but I think that he's going to.
Yeah. Well, and don't discount. Cleveland should have a pretty dominant running game too if they want to do that, and that always helps. So now worrying about. Anyway, you know what I mean. It's just. I don't think he's that much of a dark horse. The only reason he's a dark horse is because those other guys are in a little bit better situations and more likely to put up incredible numbers. So,
Side note here.
Yeah.
How did the Browns get let off the hook?
Oh.
And what I mean by that is, how did they get let off the hook when it comes to Deshaun Watson? Because people gave the Broncos a ton of flack for Russell Wilson and that trade and how overpriced he was and how much they gave away. The Deshaun Watson trade was so much worse. They gave away so many picks, and then Watson came in, was suspended for 11 games, and sucked. He was worse than Russell Wilson last season, but whatever. On to number 5. We got Justin Jefferson at 10,000 odds. And he mentioned no receivers ever won an MVP. I was thinking about this one earlier. I think that it's an underratedly good pick.
Yeah.
He's an extremely talented receiver, obviously. But I think the thing that's going underrated is that Dalvin Cook's gone, right?
Yeah.
But also Adam Thielen's gone.
Yeah.
This team is not going to be a great team. That's one thing that might pull them back. But the thing that might also help at the same time is the fact that they don't have a whole lot to throw to besides Hawkinson at tight end and Jefferson. So you might see a situation kind of like back with Megatron and Stafford,
Yeah.
where Stafford was just chucking it to Calvin Johnson. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Kirk Cousins start just locking in on Justin Jefferson and him get a ton of targets.
Right. Considering he had 128 for 1,800 yards last year, he's already getting a lot of them. But yes, I agree completely. And it's, the Vikings are using that term of competitive rebuild. It's not a rebuild. It's a competitive rebuild, a competitive retooling. Okay, guys. You're scaring the Lions with that kind of rhetoric. I mean, come on. Yeah. So, that could actually lend itself to him just getting it thrown to him all the time. But he's the guy to do it. But I was going to say, I think the only way a receiver wins the MVP is if his team wins and he does numbers like that. And even then, it doesn't get. Nobody's done it before. It doesn't get credit.
It would have to be a record-setting season.
Yeah.
And the team would have to win. I think they have to at least get to 9-8.
Yeah, and if they have that kind of a season, Cousins will probably be the one getting MVP toss.
Yeah. Oh, good old Kirk.
I mean, I love the pick. Love Jefferson's an MVP type of player. I think it's going to happen, but yeah. Ooh.
On to number 6 on this list, Matthew Stafford.
I don't like it.
He did not do good last season in injuries. I get why.
Yeah.
They're here. I like Stafford.
Cooper Kupp will be back.
I like Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
I want them to do good. Mostly because my wife likes the Rams, and so then she'll be happy.
It makes life easier for you, yes.
But I don't think they're going to bounce back that strongly.
Well,
I don't have faith in that team to stay healthy.
no,
First and foremost.
no. I mean, so when they went all in and were trading away picks and doing all that stuff, they go all in to win the championship and got it. Last year, they were picking up picks. We got a whole bunch of rookies in camp. A lot of rookies. This is a really young team. McVay's a good coach. I think they'll be more competitive than people expect if they stay healthy, to your point, which is a good point. Yeah, I think this one's he's got him on this list based on past. Well, he's got the odds at plus 5,000, so that's other than Justin Jefferson. Yeah, that's the highest we've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would pick him to be in the MVP conversation, not this season, but next. I would be more inclined for that. I think this season's just going to be more of a rebound year than anything else. On to number 7, my favorite number, Geno Smith.
They're just
not a fan of it. I think not a fan. Here's the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you can say. I think the Seahawks. I think Pete Carroll were surprised that Geno Smith was as good as he was last season.
Yeah.
I don't think they expected that. The reason I don't think they expected that is because Pete Carroll in the offseason, when they traded for Drew Lock, and they had a QB competition between Drew Lock and Geno Smith. I got to watch a lot of Drew Lock as a Bronco fan. He's got swagger. And he pulled some fun games out of his hat, but he's not a great quarterback. Maybe he has some potential that wasn't able to be tapped into. But
yeah,
Pete Carroll, when asked about the quarterbacks, came out and said, "We have 2 starting quarterbacks. if Drew Lock and Geno Smith were competitive,
Are you trying to be nice? Is that why you're?
I'm just saying, if Drew Lock and Geno Smith were at a competitively even level in Pete Carroll's eyes,
Yeah.
I don't see how he expected Geno Smith to have the season he did. And it was a great season. But to me, Geno Smith's season screams a one-off season to me. Obviously, he can throw the football. He's in the NFL.
Yeah.
But that team is so uber talented. And Pete Carroll's a good coach. I mean, we're seeing with Russell Wilson maybe that maybe he wasn't as good as everyone thought. But I think that Geno Smith is going to have a very good year. I think that MVP is a little bit, it's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the guy was trying. Maybe Shine was trying to get more people on there. I don't know if you looked at the next one after him. That's even more of a holy crap. But so here's the thing with Geno. I think Geno will follow up. I think Geno can follow up from last season and do well because, as you mentioned, he's got some talent, some real talent. They've done fantastic in the draft the last couple seasons. Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be
a star,
I think. And they've also got a couple other pretty good receivers over there. So if Geno doesn't replicate last season ish, then it was a fluke, right? He had some time. He got drafted high, was kind of probably thought of as a bust. I've seen people talk about it before. It's a tough situation to put people in like that. We label people busts so quickly when they're drafted, maybe overdrafted. I think it was the Jets that took him, right? As a rookie.
Jets took him, and second round, 39th overall pick.
Not in a good place. Not in a good situation. Sometimes a little bit of time, people need those, and maybe this is what Geno is now. What we saw last year, that's the Geno Smith we're going to get as until his career ends, and it's pretty good, right? And if he's got the weapons, it's pretty good. MVP, a lot of things need to go differently. They still got to play San Francisco. The Cardinals aren't trying to be competitive in their division, and the Rams, we don't know. We think they need to be healthy, and we know they're young. And how much of that last season did Geno benefit from? He didn't have great games against the Niners. He didn't, but he had some good games against the Cardinals and against the Rams. And I don't remember any games last year where it was like, whoa, Geno Smith against a real quality team. It was just solid. It wasn't great. So yeah, I think this is quite a reach. This is a very dark horse, and I'm not buying this one.
The horse is extremely dark.
Yes. And all of my yammering ninny Seahawk fan friends back home in Oregon, if they listen, they're going, "Well, you don't like the Seahawks." And you're right, I don't. I'll admit it. I don't like the Seahawks. So
let's go through Geno Smith's games last season, right?
Okay.
I'm curious. I don't really know what I'm going to see here, but Denver week 1, it's a good defense, 195 yards. And I just want to see normal stats. No, okay. Game. Oh, here it is. There it is. All right. Denver, 2 touchdowns, 195 yards. Not a crazy performance, but he beat the Broncos. Next week, 49ers, another good defense, 197 yards, interception, no touchdowns. Not great. Next week, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Much better against the Falcons defense.
Okay.
So that's not a good defense. Next week, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Lions defense, which just didn't show up. The next game is a solid one against the New Orleans Saints. 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Cardinals, he threw 197 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Chargers, 210, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Giants, 212, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Cardinals, again, 275, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Just skipping to his 300-yard games, he threw 300 yards against the Raiders, against the Rams, and against the Lions, against the Falcons.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
And his 3 touchdown games came against the Saints, who that's not a great. It wasn't a great team last year. Even though I will give him a little credit because it's always a solid defense. He threw it against the Rams and the Panthers. And the thing is about the Rams weren't good last season in any way. So I think, like you mentioned, I mean, he had 4 games where he didn't hit 100 yards. Hit 200 yards, which was against the Jets, the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Broncos. I think there's something to be said for the fact that he might be coming back down to earth this season.
Maybe. And we don't know their schedule. And
off the top of my head.
Yeah, and always, injuries are always part of the equation on these things. DK Metcalf, not DJ, DK Metcalf get hurt. That's gonna, if that happened, that would be a problem. Things like that. But yeah, I think, like I said, I think that Geno is now a solid quarterback. MVP candidate, no.
No. Yeah. Moving on to number 8. It's a doozy.
Yeah, I told you. I looked ahead.
Sam Darnold. This guy's crazy. There's, for one, just I got a couple thoughts on this for 3 reasons here. We all know the 49ers are not going to start the same quarterback all season.
Yeah.
Due to injuries or whatever. I love Sam Darnold. I want him to succeed. But he's going to have to play out of his ever-living mind to not get benched for Purdy or Lance.
Right.
I don't see a world where he keeps the job with how Brock Purdy played last season.
Well, and the rumors are that even Trey Lance doesn't have a shot. The Niners are like, yeah, I know we spent a lot of draft capital to get you, but Purdy's our guy. That's the rumors coming out now. So yeah, exactly. I kind of cut you off. I'm sorry, but
I agree with that.
And the other thing about it, now I saw why he said this, because it's the Niners, because of what they could win 11 to 13 games and be a contender. And if Darnold was the guy all season, well, that would mean he'd have to do pretty well. But we don't have any evidence at all that can happen. We know Darnold is physically talented. There have been a lot of very talented quarterbacks that didn't make it. They didn't have quite the right thing. I don't know if I don't think it's fair. We've had the conversation. You and I've had the conversation before, many times, about the whole bust label being not a very fair thing. Just because sometimes life is not fair, and you get drafted somewhere, you get overdrafted. And so. Yeah, Darnold was a high draft pick, and there was a lot of, he's pro ready and all that stuff. Okay, so he wasn't. Was it the situation? Well, I don't know. We don't know.
New York.
Yeah, we don't know. We haven't seen enough to know. So this is a wild pick. And hey, I'm a kind of a 49er fan. I ain't mind.
Here's the other thing.
It's fine, but I ain't mind.
Here's the other thing. I am fully on board with the idea of like, well, it's Shanahan, he can make anything work. He always makes anything work. Making it work and MVP candidate are two different things.
Yeah.
Bring me a quarterback from the 49ers with Shanahan that has been the MVP conversation. I'll wait.
Yeah. When they went
There's
to the
never-
Super Bowl last, they had a great season, went to the Super Bowl last. Jimmy Garoppolo was not in the conversation. He had a nice season. He had a very nice season. It was a good. It was like a 28 touchdown, 10 interception ish type of thing.
Yeah.
It was a good season. Wasn't MVP caliber.
Yeah.
If there's an MVP
100%
from the
agree.
49ers, it's probably. It seems like it's more likely to be McCaffrey, and even that I don't really see happening.
Yeah. The 49ers are a team-driven team. And what I mean by that is that they are not star-driven in the fact that they just maximize the talent of everyone on their roster.
Yeah.
And it doesn't usually bode well to an MVP, especially when you, I mean, I would be more, I would rather have Brock Purdy here than Sam Darnold. Because we've seen Brock Purdy play at a high level with this team. On to number 9. This is one I feel like should be higher. Jared Goff. He says here that he's a darkest of dark horses. Jared Goff is a really interesting. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's had successful seasons, and this team should be better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have Goff below Sam Darnold, for one, but I think Jared Goff is very much should be on this list. He played pretty well last season, and if this team takes a step forward, I could see him having another good season.
Yeah. It is well. Let's compare him to Darnold. We haven't seen. They're sitting there talking about Darnold as a MVP candidate, and I'm like, well, we haven't seen anything from Darnold that indicates that. We have from Jared Goff. We have seen that potential from Jared Goff, as you mentioned. Went to the Super Bowl, was the quarterback all season. Went to the Super Bowl, had a very nice season. He's had some very good numbers. He was good last year. He should be, and I think that one goes up quite a bit if they're poised. The opportunity is there for them to do it. If the Lions win their division and make a 2-3 game jump in their wins, 4-game jump in their wins, he has to be in the conversation. And that doesn't
purely because it's Detroit.
Yeah, and it doesn't It doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility. Certainly. So, I don't think it's fair to say darkest of the dark horses. That to me, I'm like, Dak Prescott is darker than that guy. So,
yeah. I think that's the end of the list here.
That's the end of that one.
But I'd say I keep making you go away. Come back. There you are.
You're doing a service to our viewers because nobody needs to see that.
We'll see if this will be the episode that goes viral, makes us famous. I highly doubt it.
Who's that shaggy guy? He ugly.
Yeah. Oh, if there's not at least 4 comments of what's that caterpillar on your face. I think the interesting thing about this is that MVP is a quarterback award. But a quarterback requires having a bunch of teammates who do really good for them to be. MVP is a funny award because it's a quarterback award, really. It's a quarterback award. But at the same time, it's a team award. In a weird way. If a quarterback has an incredible season but only wins 3 games, they're not in the MVP conversation because their team didn't do good enough, because wins matter above all else. And it's a funny situation. I mean, I think that there is more of an argument. I'm surprised. Here's a dark horse for me.
Oh,
And this is, let me don my hat of homerism. Russell Wilson. Dark horse. He's getting a new coach. He's getting a receiver back. He's getting a healthier team. He got hopefully a better offensive line.
sounds like he's healthier. I heard he's
Yeah,
come into the league. He come into the camp leaner
yeah,
than he was last year.
yeah. So that's what I heard too. So I mean, I don't see why he couldn't bounce back to. I think he is not really, but I could see him being in the conversation. He's another guy that if if Sam Darnold can be a dark horse, why can't Russell Wilson?
Well, so I think if Sean Payton, if Sean Payton can't resurrect Russell Wilson to a degree, he's not young. He'll resurrect. You know, it's only for a couple of years, I guess. But if Sean Payton can't resurrect him, then it's dead, Jim. He's done, right? Sean Payton has a unique ability to work with quarterbacks, and he's very, very good. So yes, I agree completely that Russell Wilson is a candidate. It's I don't know. I mean, this guy, you could probably make an argument for all kinds of guys. It would sure be something, and I know Russell Wilson would love it. You'd love it. It sure would be something to see that immediate impact. You know, and I don't think Sean Payton comes into places necessarily looking to build. He wants to win. So
Going on that, I want to talk about this for actually a little bit. Is if Russell Wilson starts the season like he did last season, if we're in week 5 or 6, the team is looking bad and Russell Wilson's looking bad, he's getting benched. I think there's a reason that Jared Stidham was brought in. Sean Payton has publicly said and publicly praised Jared Stidham's at the line of scrimmage awareness and mental ability. Yeah. He paid a lot of money for a quarterback who didn't play a whole lot of games. He could have gone out for an Andy Dalton. He could have gone out for someone like that, but he went for Jared Stidham, a young quarterback smart young quarterback with some upside. And I think he brought that in for a reason, because everything that I'm seeing, Sean Payton is going to have carte blanche to do whatever he wants. If he decides that Russell Wilson is washed, I think that the ownership at this point I think they're open to just eating the money and moving on and cutting their losses of the last administration. I think George Payton probably loses his job in that case, but I think that Jared Stidham will get playing time this season if Russell Wilson struggles. And I think there's a reason that he was brought in, and it was the contract is structured. They could probably get out of it after this season if they wanted to, or they can keep him around for relatively not that much. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Jared Stidham get some playing time, especially. I mean, if Russell Wilson starts slow, it's not. He's on a short leash, I think.
Well, it's funny because I think Wilson. I get the feeling that Wilson earned some goodwill around the league.
Yeah.
I don't know. Somehow. Maybe people think his wife is too hot or something, but it didn't sound that great with some of his teammates leaving Seattle. And so, yeah, I actually don't think that Wilson is not. I don't know his mindset, but he's not on that stable of ground.
Yeah.
And you're right. If you're looking at him and you're going, yeah, he doesn't have it anymore. He's too old or too whatever, washed, as you said. Well, yeah, pull that plug sooner rather than later. And Peyton's good enough to know you know, if it's Wilson needs a little bit more time to get it. But again, he's not young. How much time do you give him?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd forgotten about the Stidham thing. It is significant. I think that, yeah, I think you're right on about that. It's almost it's like you wonder if Peyton thinks, or even in his mind knows, that he's going to need Stidham. You're going into the season, you're like, I need the best second quarterback I can possibly get because my first ain't that great anymore.
And Stidham is a guy who can bring in with no risk. He doesn't put pressure on Wilson. He's not. It doesn't make this whole training camp QB controversy. But he's
Right.
a high upside quarterback who
Yeah.
you can see it's almost like taking a draft pick. You almost get to take a flyer on a third rounder in this situation with Stidham.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I hadn't thought about that at all. I knew they'd signed him, partly because Raiders got so much crap for just letting him go when they played him, and he played kind of well at times last year.
Yeah.
Everybody thought when they basically mothballed Carr that they were giving Stidham an audition.
And he
then
did well in the audition. And then said later, because Josh McDaniels is the coach, and Josh McDaniels is an absolutely atrocious head coach.
He has, yes. We had that conversation before too. Some of these guys, I get it, but I don't. It's like, listen, I said all along, I didn't want the head coach gig. I wanted the coordinator gig. So like, why are you messing with a good thing? But yeah. That would be so. So what you're saying then is that Russell Wilson is a dark horse MVP candidate, or could get benched.
Yes, it's one or the other. He's either going to win MVP, or he's not going to make it past week 7.
Hey, it's the NFL. That could happen. I've told you before, I've always been in a circumstance to be rooting against the Broncos.
Well, I mean, 49er fan.
Right. And worked out pretty well for us. But, and then, I don't even know why. I think I was kind of ambivalent when they played the Giants in the Super Bowl. But my girlfriend was rooting for Denver, and she pissed me off, so I rooted for the Giants. Something like that. Yeah, shout out to you, Melanie. Anyway, so I've found myself rooting against the Giants a lot, but I've always, or not the Giants, the Broncos a lot, but I've always kind of liked the Broncos, and so it doesn't feel right. It's one of those things. It's like in college football. It doesn't feel right when, like before Saban came to Alabama, and Alabama wasn't that great. It didn't feel right. And I'm not an Alabama fan. When Notre Dame is not good, it doesn't feel right, whether or not I'm a fan. Broncos in the NFL, it's that kind of thing. If they're not good, it doesn't feel right. So I want them to be good. I want them to be, I want that division to be
what it should be.
Meat grinder. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I want those cards.
Interesting thing about that, I saw a stat today that the division is tied all time in division titles at 15. Chiefs have 15, Chargers have 15, Raiders have 15, Broncos have 15.
No way.
Ultimate.
That is amazing.
It's amazing. It's crazy, especially with how big of lapses some of these teams had from being good.
Right.
I mean, the Broncos have been, I think the Broncos have like 3 division wins in the last 10 years or something like that. It's 8 years. I mean, it's been rough, but yeah, I mean, it should be the meat grinder division. It should be all that in a bag of chips, but it hasn't been. And a big part of that has been on Denver. It's been on Oakland, Las Vegas. I mean, I think this season, I mean, it's the Chiefs division to lose, always is, but
yes,
I think it's a battle for second place with the Chargers and the Broncos, and I don't expect to see the Raiders.
I don't either. No, I don't either. I mean, they could surprise us, but it's not like they're making moves that look like, I mean, they traded Waller away. So,
welcome to the Josh McDaniels show.
Yeah.
I hear you're a good player. Doors that way. Don't let it hit you on the way out. I don't have strong feelings about Josh McDaniels. I should make a video about Josh McDaniels and how I should make a video about the best or worst coach in NFL history.
You should. That'd be a good one.
I can just go off on him for 10 minutes.
Coming for you.
Oh, yeah. I'll wear all my Bronco stuff during that video. The most unbiased video on the internet.
Yes.
Yeah,
I could just see it getting back to him. You see this little podcast on YouTube? This guy's ripping you, but he made good points, man.
The best thing he could do would be to call us out and get mad at us on Twitter.
I know, right?
Like, oh yes, fight us, Josh McDaniels, please. Hey, honestly, Josh McDaniels, if you listen to this, hit us up. Get on the podcast. We'd love to. I'll roast you in person. I have no qualms. My first question will be, why did you trade Brandon Marshall? My second question will be, why did you piss off Jay Cutler? And then my third question will be, why did you trade for Kyle Orton? My fourth question will be, how did you win 5 straight games with Kyle Orton?
Hey, that'd be fair. You're throwing him a bone on that one.
A bone. And then what happened in the last 12 games, 11 games of the season when you went 3-8?
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting off on a tangent. All right. But
all right.
That's what we do here. And my goodness, how the time flies. We are already at 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, we milked that topic quite well.
I felt like that was a good show.
Yeah.
I have a perfect clip to end the show with. We talked about the Packers, we talked about the Broncos, and let me share my audio to you so you can actually hear it, and you won't just be sitting here in quiet desperation. But I feel like the best clip I could have to end the episode would be if I could do this right.
I've really enjoyed making love to your ears. I think that you have beautiful ears. They fit very nicely. So I would say it would be an erotic.
And with that, hope you've enjoyed. We've enjoyed.
I love some of the things people do on the internet.
Hey, you know the best part about that? That was NFL Network.
Oh, no way.
Oh, boy. If you've made it this far, we appreciate you. Let us know.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far, comment something about our ears and how much you love them. Ear reveal.
Covered by my mop
your
on my
golden
head.
locks.
Golden?
It's just the camera. It's the camera. You have golden locks.
Okay.
I mean, I wonder if I can hue shift you to golden locks.
I'm really only 29.
Yeah, you identify as a 29-year-old. I mean,
Hey-oh.
All right, we're gonna get canceled if we keep going here.
Yeah.
This has been the Insomniac Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Easy, folks.